Hello and welcome to Belgian Diecast Restorations. My name is Johan and this video is my contribution to this month's Diecast and Modelers Community Challenge on Facebook. The challenge this time is to restore or refresh a Corgi Toys model. Not too hard as I have a drawer full of them. My choice went to this 1/43 scale AEC Routemaster double-decker, which was issued between 1964 and 1975. In its 11-year run, this model came with various ads on the side. This one with the Outspan Oranges ad is the most common type, issued between 1965 and 1975. This model has seen a lot of action, which proves that it was once loved very much by its owner. The paint is flaking and has faded on one side, and the windows are dull. But apart from that and the missing decals, there's no damage. So this model is a prime candidate for a complete restoration. Lots of details, of course, also means a lot of parts to restore. So let's get started. The bus is held by only one rivet, which already has a hole to center my drill. After drilling out the rivet, I can remove the bottom plate with the suspension and the wheels. The ticket guy falls out as he is only held by a peg behind the staircase. Now I can remove the lower deck interior with the driver. The windows on the lower deck are quite fiddly since they are in two parts. The top deck is not riveted, but only held in place with the plastic destination sign in the front. I gently push the sign out. Now I can separate the upper deck from the lower deck. I remove the upper deck seats and the two-part window unit, which is easier to remove here. I push out the jeweled headlights through the large holes in the back of the sockets. Be aware that these holes are not present in the first edition of this model with the Corgi livery from 1964. The suspension rods are crimped in place, so I won't be able to remove them, but I can remove the wheels. These later cast wheels and their axles are in very good condition and only need a good polish. The tires, however, are rock hard and will need to be replaced. The driver is fixed to the seat with a peg. I gently pry the driver upwards until he's freed. I also peel off the destination sticker. It's a bit yellowed but still usable. With the bus completely disassembled, it's time to strip the paint. I put the upper and lower deck as well as the bottom plate in a jar of boiling water and add 2 tablespoons of caustic soda. I've had some trouble with Corgi paints before, but not this time. I think we can safely say that we have 100% paint removal. With the paint removed, I wire brush the parts to remove any remaining impurities. This also gives a solid base for the primer. Then I drill a 1.5mm pilot hole in the rivet post and tap a 2mm screw thread. Since the top deck doesn't have anything for the clamp to hold on, I superglued a nail to the inside of the roof. The suspension rods are crimped to the bottom plate and can't be removed. I cover them in masking liquid. This will avoid them being painted with the rest. This is not necessary, but it avoids that the rods get stuck with paint to the base, as this would mean extra work when reattaching the wheels. All parts are primed with AK Interactive Grey primer. When choosing the colors, I made two bad judgments. First, I sprayed the bottom plate in REL 7035 light grey, which turns out to be almost white. So I decided to give the bottom plate another coat, this time with Vallejo Grey Hobby Paint, which is still light but a lot closer to the original grey. My second mistake was a choice of REL 3020 Traffic Red, and as you can see, this is a very bright red color, almost going towards orange. Definitely not the red of a Routemaster. Luckily, my new order of paint had just arrived with a can of REL 3003 Ruby Red. As this is the same brand of paint, I sprayed two coats right over the Traffic Red and of course also the lower deck. I was afraid the first color would show through or change the tone of the Ruby Red, but luckily it didn't. This darker Ruby Red looks perfect on this bus. Finally, the parts are all sprayed with several layers of Motip clear gloss varnish, which also turns the matte bottom plate glossy again. When it comes to painting, it's important not to panic and look at your options. Sometimes making a bold decision will prove to be worthwhile. You can always start over by dunking the part into the caustic soda, but luckily I didn't have to do that here. As the paint dries, it's time to address all the other parts of the bus. First, I clean the interior. It's supposed to be a light tan, but it has darkened over the years into a yellowish beige. This is caused by the bromine inside the plastic. Bromine is used as a fire retardant in plastics, but when exposed to oxygen and sunlight, the bromine molecules come to the surface, giving the plastic a dark yellow tint. Luckily, this yellowing process is reversible with a technique called retrobrighting. Retrobrighting is very commonly used by collectors and restorers of old computers and handheld computer games. It consists of covering the yellowed parts in hydrogen peroxide, then let it react under UV light. I have prepared a cardboard box lined with aluminum foil. Inside the box I submerge the upper and lower interior and the destination sign into a shiny inox bowl and fill it with liquid peroxide. And this is the LED grow light I will be using. It's a kind that is used in greenhouses to give plants the necessary sunlight in winter. I turn on the light and leave it running. The foil and the metal bowl help to reflect the UV light onto all sides of the parts. After about 8 hours under the UV light, the interior of the bus has regained its original lighter tan color. Gone is the ugly dark yellowing. The driver and the ticket guy get their first bath in perhaps more than 50 years. The windows are in very good condition and just need good polishing to make them transparent again. Like with the windows of all my models, I use polishing compound for plastic car headlights. After the polishing, I clean the clear parts with window cleaning liquid on a microfiber cloth. Be careful when polishing these window units. They are large and very thin, so don't put on too much pressure. The tires on the wheels have petrified and can't be removed. The only solution is to break them from the hubs using pliers. I already sourced 4 new 15mm Corgi tires from my spare parts drawers. These third-party tires are made and sold by Model Car Parts in the Netherlands and are of very good quality. They even contain the original Corgi Toys logo on the side. I'll leave a link to these tires in the description. Next, I polish the axles and the wheels until they are all shiny again. When the paint has cured, I give the grille back its metal color. I don't use a chrome pen here as the original paint is not that shiny. Tamiya X-11 Chrome Silver is perfect for this. With all the parts painted, cleaned, brightened, polished and detailed, we can start reassembly. First, I remove the liquid mask from the suspension rods. Then I insert the axles in the suspension in the bottom plate. Accidents happen, and as I lift the suspension rod, the screwdriver slips, bending the rod upwards. I continue attaching the axles and the tires, but the only way to fix the bent suspension rod is to glue it down with superglue and baking soda. Otherwise the bus will stand crooked on its wheels. I do this off camera. With the suspension repaired, we can continue with the lower deck. First, the driver is pushed back into his seat, snapping the peg back into the hole. Then the window awnings are fitted by clipping them into the window frames. Next comes the lower window unit containing the cab and the stairwell. Then I drop in the interior with the driver. The ticket guy is clipped in place with a peg behind the staircase. This is a bit fiddly. Then the metal handlebar is put back in place and we close the bus up with the bottom plate and the screw. I push the jeweled headlights back into their sockets, and that's it for the lower deck. The upper deck is assembled in roughly the same order. Off camera, I removed the nail which was used to hold the casting for painting. First come the window awnings. Then I drop in the window unit. The interior, however, needs to be attached over the clip in the back of the lower deck. Then we can slip the upper deck over the clip and fasten it by clipping the front destination sign in place. Now that the bus is back together, we can apply the many decals on this model. Using my dad's bus as a template, I scanned the decals in high resolution, then recreated them in vector software. This allows me to work on a very small scale without losing any details. Measuring the decals and the space where they go allows me to reproduce them in the right size. I use the same fonts or fonts that are as close as possible, and roughly the same colors. The outspan banner has been scanned in high resolution, then traced in vector software to make it easily resizable. The destination sign on the front was still complete but yellowed, so I decided to replace it altogether. Next we have a smaller destination label on the side above the door and an even smaller one on the back underneath the upper window. The side and back destination decals are often missing, as these were usually very small stickers that easily fall off when the glue dries out. The two Corgi ads on the front have been recreated from scratch as vector graphics using the original Corgi logo and fonts. The London Transport decals have also been recreated from scratch using a photo as a template. The logo is reproduced in yellow on red, since no standard printer can reproduce the brass paint of the original. If you are interested in the decals I made for this bus, you can find them in a complete bundle on my Buy Me a Coffee page for a small fee. However, if you become a Belgian Diecast Restoration member, all my current and future decals are free. This Corgi bus was in a very shabby state, with missing and faded paint, missing decals, dull windows and a yellowed interior. So it was time to give it a factory reset. Now this AEC Routemaster is fit to drive the London streets again, the driver proud behind the wheel and a ticket guy in the rear ready to sell the tickets. Thanks for watching! If you enjoy my videos, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and ring that notification bell. More restorations are coming up. See you in the next video.